Writing is so multiple for me. It was a bit of therapy when I started. It was an avenue for me to share my thoughts and beliefs and my faith, and it's still that. It's still very much therapy. But it's not just my own therapy, it's ministry. I feel a burden to share something that will help other people through what I write. I have a burden to share the gospel through my writing. It's great, and it's definitely the main thing behind it. It's not for money. Even if I don't make money from it, I will still write.
So let's talk about finding purpose and passion in life. How is writing for you? Was it something called purpose, or is it something you call a business, or is it something like something you see as a platform to share? So what can you define your writing as?
Writing is so multifold for me. So multifold for me. Like I said, it was a bit of a therapy when I started. It was an avenue for me to share my thoughts and beliefs and my faith. And it's still that. It's still very much therapy, writing. But it's not just my own therapy, it's ministry. I feel a burden to share something that will help other people through what I write. And the gospel, I have a burden to share the gospel through my writing. So it's that, but it's also now a means for me to feed by the grace of God, So I'm not at the level where I publish a book and I'm done for the year. I don't need to do anything again. We haven't reached that level, and but even if I publish 2 or 3 books, it's not that we're not there yet. But it's little by little, by God's grace, I'll get recognition for my writing. And not only will I publish books, I pray God that I'll be able to, my books will be converted to film, because people say that a lot about my books when they read them. Like, oh my God, this should be like in a movie, and so I'm looking for avenues for that to happen. But writing has become, it started as personal therapy and also my faith, speaking, preaching gospel, and ministry is now also like a source of livelihood to me. It's everything, it's great, and it's definitely the main thing behind it. It's not for money. Even if I don't make money from it, I will still write. It's how I am, who I am. How I am, who I am. And it's also how I hear from God a lot. There's some people who they need to write letters to God, because they don't know how to just say it sometimes. And there have been phases in my life that I've had to do that. Like I have to just say, okay, I'm writing a letter to God because I don't even know how to say what I want to say, But my stories, it's more than writing a letter to God. It's like, God, I have an issue that I don't quite understand, and I want to know what's the solution to this problem. So I'll now write a story and say, okay, show me the way to resolve it, and it comes right in. He did that with an emotional affair. Yes. So with an emotional affair, I just kind of like transposed some real stuff into fiction.
I was about asking if some of these stories are personal, or if you have like a personal relationship with them.
They're a couple, yeah. So I kind of like just fictionalized some real thing that was going on with me, and I know that it happens to a lot of women too. So I put it out there. I'm like, all right, Lord. So this has happened now. What's the way out of this? How do we fix this? And he always comes with that. When I started writing that book, at first I was stuck because I didn't want to be real. I was just trying to. He just said, open up. And it was just like everything just like came out, right? And then by the time I got to the 13th episode, which is actually part 12 actually, because it started with the prologue. So by the time I got to part 12, I was trying to rush it. I was like, let's keep the pace going, right? Just keep it down, so I left it. And then I didn't even know how at 9 when I was leaving, that 13 came to me. The same way that in the story, the mother appeared to the child. The mother is late, and the mother was whispering to the child. So that's when the mother was whispering the whole scene to me, like. And I woke up in the night and I was writing it, and it was just flowing like that. So my writing process is also part of my relationship with God. So I'm telling God, okay, talk to me. How are we going to resolve this thing? What's your advice? What's your counsel? What's your way? You understand? Yeah.
It's such a deep. There's this comedy of me might do something like when people say that writers have a weird way of giving just one writer and also visit from where it's in the middle of something and you just like I got a story idea, you see them running up to go write it, or maybe they are sleeping, you just see them wake up suddenly at night. Now when you're giving me this instances, it opens me up to that kind of experience. Wow, that's a deep one. Now, do people respond to some of these things? You say that it's personal, they can relate to it.
All my stories are so relatable to a lot of different people. Like Broken, so many people reached out to me because of Broken, because they've experienced what she did. And to an extent, I have too, but not the way that I did in the story. So when they reached out to me and they thought that I'd gone through the same thing that she did, and I said, no, actually, it was not like that. I didn't have that kind of strength. They felt they could not go further in telling their story, because even though it really connected with them and it really shook them up, they were looking for someone who had been abused to the extent that the lady I wrote about had been, and how it affected her marriage, and how she came back to God. Because many of these people, they're still struggling with the effects of abuse, which for them was promiscuity. So my girl here, she became promiscuous because of what she went through. And in that, I could not relate to my character, because it didn't happen to me like that. But to a lot of people that I read about, that is their experience.
Making the whole book interesting. I need to get a copy of everything. Now, when someone hears about Ufuomaee goes online and sees your stories, now there's some question I want to cover. People want to ask you, why Christian stories? Don't you blog about other things? Why is this your focus?
Why Christian stories? Out of the depths of the heart, the mouth speaks. That's what's in my heart. I think I can't write about other stuff. I've tried. You can write about other stuff, but there's no fuel, there's no fire, and I write with God, and that's what He likes to talk about. Do you understand? So yes, like in a small world, which is, I didn't bring any of them, with a series that continue the story of the church girl, broken, and an emotional affair, a small world. It's a seasonal series. I talk about a lot of different things that is not exactly just about faith. I deal with a lot of life issues, and so with the small world, I'm playing around a lot more. There's a lot more freedom, but the Spirit of God is still in all of our lives. Do you understand? It's still in everything that concerns us, everything that we do. So He's still there counseling my characters, and there's still lots of lessons as we go through the ups and downs in their relationships and marriages. So there's still there's still a lot of faith in it, but it's also like, some might think a little bit circular, but it's definitely got so much faith all over it. And I can't help it. It's the ministry that I've been given, I guess. And I love it. I love writing about my faith. And there's times that I have even struggled with my own faith. There's a time of course, everyone struggles, and it was a time, and it wasn't because I was writing this book. It was just funny that I was writing a story called The Atheist.
I think I've read that.
Yeah, I planned to write that story like 2 years before I actually got around to writing it. By the time I got around to writing it, I was reading this book by an atheist called Sapiens, and someone who was reading their faith might crumble from reading a book like that, But I was trying to read it so I could expand my mind and really try to understand the atheistic perspective and their arguments, And there's some things that I thought, but now ultimately I did not accept his conclusion or even his hypothesis. I did not accept it, But there are other things that were making me feel like this Christianity of a thing.
What is it about? Can we prove it?
No. What is it about? It's just like the way men have just taken what they wanted and made it different from Christ. Just trying to stay on the path that is true. So yeah, as I was writing The Atheist story, it was almost like I was also helping God. That's it. God was feeding me as well, because it wasn't even from me. It was faith that's from God that helped me to finish that book. Do you understand? And at the end of it, I'm like, God. I'm like, yeah, there's no denying that God is real, But those who have not experienced it, they will have their questions, and we're not the ones who convince them. It's the Holy Spirit, and that's how God works through my stories.
Now this is a response, or maybe a pickup line for someone who always gets that question. Why must we be centered on this? Can't we try other options? Not to say that other options are bad, but if you find yourself in that place where your focus is mainly on faith, or where God is leading you in a certain path and you're trying to let go of other things, just like Mrs. Koma said, the answer or response you can give to yourself or to people who ask you is, this is what comes out of the abundance.
Yeah.
So this is the consumption, this is the abundance of things that we're consuming, the exposure to God's word, the exposure to my faith, and I've done share using the platform. It might not just be writing, like I said, this is not just about writing. Any place you find yourself, in your workplace, your business, as an entrepreneur, whatever platform you're using, the media, music, anything, and you find yourself in a particular niche or focus, and people are wondering, can't you diversify? Because there's always that need for people to want to, why do you do this? Can't you
stop being so churchy?
Stop
being so religious.
Don't make it so I'm so religious. It comes up. Even if you're having a YouTube channel, a lot of people say, why would you want to have a YouTube channel just focus on this? Can't you teach people how to do this? Like, that's what gets a lot of traction. Well, if that's not what God is for you to do, please stay in the lane. Now, that's not to say that there won't be challenges or some form of shaking. Like you shared, there were times when challenges came up, but staying on that lane will help you, because definitely, I think that should be where the joy comes up in the end. Because when you're doing something that that is not part of you do it, but you're not happy about it. You're not fulfilled.
Even if the world celebrates you, you think you're fake. Because you know that it was not you, that your spirit wasn't in that thing, so you just have to do what your spirit is in, like, was it Peter that said we can't help but talk about the things that we have seen and heard, so we're not going to stop talking about it.
Whether you like it or not, it's just the expression of what we have in us. So that's on that part.